Hello, everyone. It's Gary from Soccer Pro, and today I have the pleasure of having Eli Dent with me. Eli is the creator and founder of the KickIt innovative product that has been introduced into the soccer world and has become extremely popular. I wanted to bring him on here today and have him tell you a little bit more about what the product is, what his story is, and where he's going with KickIt. So welcome, Eli.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Gary.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you started KickIt, why you started it, and how you got this whole thing going?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I'll start from kind of where I grew up because it's material to the story. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and fell in love with playing soccer early on. I think I was 4 years old, and I have an older brother. So always looked up to him. He got into soccer a little bit, and then I followed along and just became really passionate about it. And that fire and passion for soccer has really carried me to where we are today and what we're doing today. So I guess I'll kind of walk through the journey and the kind of genesis of KickIt. When I was in high school, a bunch of my friends during lunch and in between classes played hacky sack. So I don't know if some of the listeners aren't familiar with the hacky sack.
Nope.
It's kind of hit or miss. But it was it's essentially a bag of plastic pellets that you keep up in the air and you juggle, and you're using all the mechanics of juggling a soccer ball. And it struck me one day after we had been playing with all of my buddies for 3 years every single day. We were playing hacky sack in circles, and it was a social thing, as it kind of always was. And I had this moment where I looked around and said, wow, no one else in this circle plays soccer. I'm the only one. And I was like, that's powerful to me, because here I am. I'm obsessed with soccer. Everything is soccer to me. I can relate anything to soccer. And but yet here we were doing the exact same mechanics of soccer, and yet it wasn't soccer, and so that experience, though, every day brought us together, built community, built friendships. And I just thought that was so powerful. And to me, a hacky sack at that time was like soccer in your pocket. You could take it with you anywhere. It's, portable, it's lightweight, it's easy. Everybody can know how to do it. And I took that concept in high school, started creating an idea and a vision around focusing on reframing the hacky sack into this soccer world. And at that time, I was getting recruited to play college soccer and thinking, when I become a college soccer player, I'm going to create a hacky sack that's designed with the logos and the colors of the college team that I'll play for. We'll sell it into the school library, and it'll kind of be this cool thing where the soccer team promotes, and maybe that's a way to generate more buzz around people coming to the stadium, and they can play hacky sack outside of the stadium, just kind of creating a new fan environment that's a little bit more engaging. And so we did that. I had 1,000 hacky sacks manufactured with the University of South Carolina's logo. That's where I played my freshman and sophomore year, and got the licensing and all of the rights to be able to do that. And then we hit my first real obstacle as like an entrepreneur. Was there wasn't really a market fit. People have this perception about hacky sack being really hard and challenging. And frankly, there is definitely an element of you have to have enough dexterity and coordination to kind of keep it. But when you're in a group of people in a circle doing it together, it's less difficult. But anyway, it was so hard to get people to try it. And if I couldn't get someone to try it, I was never going to be able to get them to buy it. And so that was the hurdle that, I kind of built the hacky sack business through what I would have learned at the time as like the traditional way of building a business that you learn in college. Build a business plan, do the research, do surveys, then build the product, and then sell the product, right? And so I did all of that. I spent driving my wheels for 2 years trying to build that, and it just it wasn't clicking. So right before I was like, okay, I'm about to give up on this, I got introduced to this gentleman that spent his whole life doing licensing. So he had worked with Marvel and IMG and some of these bigger brands. And my dad, who owns a construction company, entrepreneur influence in my life, was doing work for this guy. And I was like, hey, can I just give like 5 minutes of your time? I just kind of want to pitch you this idea and see if there's any legs. And what I was pitching him was the similar licensing concept with I was doing with the college program, but can we license it to all the major league soccer teams, all the professional soccer teams in the US and in the world? And I pitched that to him, and then I was telling him my challenges, and he was like, yeah, I think there's maybe some legs here, but the challenge is that it's a commodity in the US. You can buy a hacky sack at a convenience store, for 25 to 50 cents.
Yep.
And so he, in that conversation, ended up being like an hour-long conversation, which was fascinating for me and a great opportunity as like a young college student trying to make something happen. And what he shared with me was actually a story that I thought was absolutely ridiculous when he told me. Later came around and really shaped where we are now. But what he was saying is that he went to the Beijing Olympics, and he started describing this thing that he saw. It was like, he called it super easy. And he said 50 people were kicking it around. And so at the time of my journey, all I had felt and interacted with was a hacky sack is too hard and nobody wanted to kick it around. And so when I'm hearing this guy say super easy, everybody's kicking it, I'm thinking, okay, well, what is this? He started describing it had like a tail on it, or it was really bright colors. And I was like, okay, this guy sounds a little bit crazy, thank you for your time. And I'll just go on my way. That was my initial feeling. And a couple of days later, I went back and I started exploring, what is this guy talking about? Maybe I can find it on the internet and just see what it looks like. And that's where I came across this concept called Jinsei. And it's actually this ancient concept, been around forever. And it's the idea of kicking a shuttlecock. And in today's manifestation of that, as it's, go ahead.
Just so for people that don't know what a shuttlecock is, that's like that little bird that you play badminton with, right? That's a shuttlecock.
Absolutely. Yep. And so that's exactly right. And what they had done, back in the Han Dynasty centuries ago was use that similar concept of a weighted base that had drag, and they kicked it in the air. And it was sort of this, again, a communal thing. And, but for whatever reason, I was never exposed to it as, in the United States and South. And then this guy showed it to me, and I was like, this is really cool. And I started digging around, but there was no connection. Again, the same thing with the hacky sack. There's no connection to soccer. But to me, I'm thinking, how is that not a thing? And so I got as many of these little artisanal handmade versions that I could find, because it's a commodity over in Asian countries, in China specifically, as the hacky sack kind of is today. So there's really no commercial brand or especially no soccer oriented brand that is creating these. And so what I found was they were very cheaply kind of put together. The materials were just kind of very inexpensive materials. And I'm a soccer player thinking I need something durable. I need it to be durable. I need it to be fun. I need it to be easy, very easy to transport. And so that's when we went on this journey of creating a really robust, kickable badminton birdie. And so today I'll kind of jump real quick, and we can go back in the details if you want. But we went from a standalone soccer juggling tool for kids to now is kind of this full-fledged game over a net. And that's going to ultimately become the sport that we're driving.
Well, tell you what, let's back up. And
sure.
If you have one, I think it'd be interesting to see one, what it actually looks like. Okay. So
this
that's
is
the
actually,
package. What does it look on the inside? What does the actual KickIt unit look like?
Absolutely. So here is we've got an elastic rubber kick pad on the bottom. So again, that's just made of this like elastic PLA rubber material.
Yep.
And that goes up through, and it's connected through these weights, which are like rubber discs. So it's got this like this circumference is actually really important to kind of the physics of it. But anyway, this is all rubber. So these weights help to create the necessary weight of flipping it back over. So it has this self-righting mechanism. And then it's got 4 feathers that create drag. So that drag is what slows it down in the air, which gives you as a player more time to react to it. And then, so it creates the drag, slows it down, flips it over. And then every single time it will, so that the rubber kick pad is facing your foot. So the elastic rubber gives it the extra bounce, and then it's slower in the air. So all that's designed to maximize your soccer juggling abilities.
So what happens if you kick it wrong, let's say a little bit at an angle, and you kick that weight? Does that hurt your foot?
No, so not on the KickIt Pro model. So this is our Pro model, which is specifically really designed for juggling. So you can just like on your own keeping it up in the air, and you can also do soccer freestyle tricks with it. So this is designed to be a lot more dynamic in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the circumference of the weighted discs protects your foot from hitting sort of the plastic in here. This is the hard plastic. So
Yep.
yeah, it doesn't hurt your foot.
So what's the other version look like? What's the difference between the two versions?
Yeah, so we started with this soccer juggling tool, and then we went on this mission of people kept asking us, well, what else can we do with this? What else can we do with this? And we tested a bunch of different variations of games. And then the second we put a net between two people, it was like game over. Everybody knew exactly what to do. But then the challenge became the kicking surface of the KickIt, what's now the KickIt Pro, was just too small for the everyday athlete. You had to have a really precise movement and dexterity to do that. And so then we went on this journey of like, we've got to make it easier. How do you make it easier? We got to make it bigger and a little bit slower. So now we have what is the standard KickIt, which is it's got a 40% larger kick pad.
Oh yeah,
so a broader surface. Yeah. So if I hold them side by side here, you can kind of see the differences in the size. And so we expanded the size of the kick pad, giving you a little bit more area to kick. We also had to expand the space between the feathers so it could capture more wind on the way down, and added an additional feather in there for more drag. So so this is the larger version.
How durable are those? Do the feathers start shredding after you play for a bit, or do they stay together pretty good?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and one that we get often. And feathers are by nature a fragile material, so we have to be definitely very aware of that, especially in our manufacturing process. But the reality is that they will eventually wear out. The funny thing is that, and this is speaking from someone that I've been doing this for several years now, is when you pull it like this, for example, is a brand new KickIt Pro. Like this has never been kicked, and you can tell because the feathers are nice and tidy.
Yep.
There's really no splitting. I will prefer kicking a KickIt that has a little bit more wear on it, because what happens is the feathers start to splinter out, and that creates more of a natural drag versus sort of this manufactured, pre-positioned, kind of more aesthetically appealing look.
Right.
But yeah, so there are definitely times where if a feather will pop at the end. We found that can happen if you trip and fall, or maybe a dog gets a hold of it, but it doesn't change the functionality of how it actually works.
I'm just more laughing because I've got a couple Goldens, and they like to take everything they can get their mouths on and shred it. They're the ultimate shredders. So it's like, okay, I have to keep those up high on the shelves in my house. So what's you've got the two models and you've got the net. So let's say someone wanted to get just the juggling version, or maybe they wanted to get the, like for me, I would rather have the netted version. So what would the retail cost be if I wanted to get the netted version for use at, let's say, soccer labs? Because we play soccer, tennis all the time, and the kids love it. That's like their dessert for a hard workout. So I can see where this KickIt game could be extremely fun for these kids at soccer labs, but we would use the net and play just like soccer tennis, where we're going back and forth like you described. What would be the retail cost of these two different units? Yeah,
so we sell them actually bundled together. So we've got like the full experience, which is what you're describing as over the net. We sell as the KickIt Sport Pack, and that retails at $99.95. And then we've also got bundles, which really the most like our best seller is actually our Sport Pack that bundles in an additional KickIt. So you get two KickIts, and then also has a KickIt Pro in there. And that actually is our best seller in I think a lot of ways, because it gives you the opportunity to experience a whole line of, if I'm not super technical, can I do the KickIt Pro? Or like, if you're not certain, we have bundles that can kind of help you mix in that.
Okay. So what you're saying is that's the most popular bundle comes with two of the larger units, plus a net, plus the smaller KickIt Pro.
Yes. And that retails for $129.95. And that's also got free shipping.
Oh, I can see why that's more popular, because one, you've got a replacement if you start to shred the bigger one, and then just getting the extra pieces is worth the money.
Absolutely.
So that's very interesting. All right. So where do you go with it next? What's your plan to roll this out and make KickIt the new phenomena that people are playing on beaches and the parks, indoor centers like at soccer labs, et cetera?
Yeah, so it's really there's several different ways and approaches that we're kind of going at simultaneously. A lot of it is grassroots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like going into soccer tournaments, going into soccer clubs, into practicing clinics, and just exposing people to it, like demonstrating it, getting fun games together. So those are more of like the unofficial, like relationship community building that just has to occur. We team up with PE teachers in schools, for example. We'll go visit a school and, the whole class will be around how do we play kick it? And we take you
Mm-hmm.
from how do they understand the basics of juggling it to then let's play a competitive match. To we're also like right at the end of last year, we held our first kind of official competitive tournaments. So we held one here in Chicago, Illinois, and our second one was in Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm from. And both of those were just so much fun. And it was really great to get, because, and a lot of times, and this is great, is that people will get the sport pack and it's in more of a backyard game play,
Mm-hmm.
right? So families are kind of playing and in that it's so informal and it's almost like there are no rules. It's just play back and forth and keep track of score, which is great. And you have to have that, right? There's got to be some flexibility and freedom in that. But then the opportunity to host formal tournaments and events where people can compete and play by the rules and win awards and things of that nature. So we're doing those two things kind of simultaneously, trying to build the vision. And the ultimate goal is really to build a sport. And the landscape of how quickly you can build a sport has dramatically changed. I don't know if you're familiar with pickleball, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Pickleball is great. It's such a cool game. But pickleball has been around, I think it was like 50 or 60 years ago they started it. And now it's like a full blown, it's one of the fastest growing sports in America, which is so cool because previous to that, it was like, 100 years before a sport really became recognized. And so the time is really starting to compress and you're finding that a lot of these, I would classify us as a hybrid sport. So we marry badminton and soccer. And so you're finding like spike ball is a hybrid sport between volleyball and foursquare. And so it's all these like hybrid sports that are really starting to gain traction. And it's really cool to see how that develops. And I think a lot of ways it's making it more accessible, the portability of it, and the close proximity of the play doesn't require you to be super fit to have a high intensity, fun rally, and so all those pieces. But the ultimate goal is building leagues and tournaments here in the US and then expanding that into kind of a recognized by the federation here, and then getting, international recognition. Is going to take several years to get there, but I think that's the ultimate goal, is to become a sport recognized.
You bring up a good point about you don't need to be super fit, but I think about badminton, right? So if you think about backyard badminton, it's a bunch of us just kind of whacking the shuttlecock around, and it's fun, but it's not really what you would consider a very physically exerting type of activity until you see it at the high level. And the higher the levels that go up, all of a sudden it is a very high paced, very intense game. So I imagine it's the same thing with your KickIt program. If you're just playing casual, anyone can play. But if you take it up in intensity and you're playing against other, intense athletes, it becomes an intense type of activity.
Absolutely. And that's like where it really gets fun is like in the beginning. So often like in these tournaments that we held, our first official tournaments, we started with a lot of the educational pieces. And part of that is let's just get in a circle and let's kick it and let's everybody get familiar with how the dynamics work. And then, so we go from like that casual environment to then, all right, it's official, like hop on the court, and you can just tell that the temperature rises. People are starting to get a little bit more competitive, and the intensity is so much higher. And that's just so fun to watch.
So how do people buy the units? Can they go to a retail outlet and get these, or are you selling them online? And if so, could you let us know what your website is where people can get these?
Yeah, absolutely. So so if you check out our website, we've got a lot of how-tos and about us and a lot of tutorials and documentation to help you really learn the game. But you can buy them. We're in over 60 soccer retail stores. These are like boutique, like your neighborhood soccer store.
Okay.
Several of them are chains. So we're in Times Square at Pele Soccer in Miami and Orlando, California. Kind of all the hot spots of soccer is where you'll find but we also have a store locator on our website, and our website is www.kickit.net. And so you can buy them from our website. You can go look on our website for a store locator and buy them from your local store. And we're also on Amazon.
Okay. So they can buy it at kickit.net. That's KICKIT.net. Or you can buy them from the evil empire, Amazon.
Correct. Yeah.
Don't buy them from Amazon. Buy them from kickit.net. It's better.
Yeah. Actually, and here's another exciting partnership we made right at the end of right during the Christmas season this past season. We formed a partnership with soccer.com. So you can also buy them on soccer.com. So if you buy them on soccer.com, leave us a good review because that helps.
Sure. Yeah, the good guys down there too. Soccer.com. They're run by really great guys. So that's a good one. So kickit.net is a good one. Soccer.com, good website to buy from. Amazon is available as a very, very, very last resort.
Yes.
And then there are some local retailers with a store locator on your website, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And let's just run down one more time what the different options are from a price standpoint. You've got the KickIt Pro is how much?
So our KickIt Pro is $17.95.
Oh, really cheap.
Yeah, and the cool thing about, I think, what they offer from especially if you're a soccer player is that it comes in this, the packaging is actually I use this to travel with it. So it's a very hard construction cardboard with a steel lid. So, I know as a kid when I was playing soccer, I would just throw things in my bag, my cleats, my shin guards, and this has feathers, so you have to protect those. So yeah, the KickIt Pro is $17.95. We've got several colors. Kids love. Youth players love colors. I loved colors. And then but our standard KickIt model, which is the easier one, the bigger one, is actually $14.95. And then the full experience.
I'm confused. Can you back up? The KickIt Pro is 17?
Yes.
And the KickIt, the larger one is $14.95.
$14.95. Yeah. So the easier one is a little bit less. So the bigger one is less expensive because our ultimate mission with it is to just reach as many people as possible, and it's a little bit less of it's just a little bit less of a niche. The benefits you get out of a KickIt Pro are a little bit different and a little bit more specialized, and so basically so that's why
one's a higher volume production run for you and one's a lower volume.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. So bigger product, but it's a higher production run. So you're getting better costs and you pass that on to the end consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really our ultimate mission is to continue to try and get these prices down, because then that enables us to be, our audience to be much broader. And our mission here isn't necessarily, it's not to make, all of this profit. It's just to get this sport out there. Like that's like, the biggest thing that we want is as many people and as many KickIts in the world as possible. So we're really trying to drive the prices down, and that's why we have a different pricing for our KickIt, standard KickIt, because it's easier and we want more and more people to have it.
Well, I can see the benefits of both. And like I said, we've got the Soccer Labs Development Center, and I can see having the kids just take some time and do some juggling with that, because it just gives them one more way to get that skill set. And I can also see where having something move a little bit slower can help develop juggling in the kids that might be struggling using a ball and just not able to get it, and get a rhythm going. So it's just one more way. But then the fun aspect of it, of playing with the net and playing more competitive type games, I definitely see getting some of these into Soccer Labs and getting them into the hands of the kids and having some fun with it. I'll probably take some video and bring it out at a later date so people can see what it actually looks like when kids are using the KickIt products in, everyday life.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. It's definitely just one of those, and videos, like, it's such a dynamic game, and really seeing it on a video is a different experience. So definitely have to get some Soccer Lab kids in there.
Yeah, definitely will. I mean, I can just tell that that's a type of product that the kids at Soccer Labs will like. So we're definitely going to get some of those into the lab.
Awesome.
All right. So one more time, you can get these on kickit.net. Remember, that's kickit.net as in soccer net, right? KICKIT.net. And you can get them at soccer.com. You can get them at amazon.com or local retailers using your store finder on your website. But if you're already at kickit.net, just go ahead and buy them right there.
There you go.
Easy way.
Right.
So, all right, Eli. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about the product. It's really cool, and I'm really looking forward to getting this out. And again, thanks for coming out, and we'll get some video to follow up. Hopefully, you can get out to Soccer Labs someday and, play around with the kids.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me, Gary. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great day, Eli.
All right, you too.
Bye now.